Happy Tuesday. I'm outside today. Wanted to try something new. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Type in the chat function. Love to see who's joining live today. Looks like there's 9 or 10 of us on. Hey there, Mary. So as we're getting ready to go, we're going to kick this off with a gratitude practice. We began talking about it last week, and I think both weeks. Hey, Samson. Thanks for being my buddy today and every Tuesday. So, yeah, sorry about that, Robin. It's it's been sunny here the last couple of days, so I've been trying to take advantage of it. Hopefully, it gives you some sunshine through the phone. As we're getting settled in, think about one thing, just one thing, that you're grateful for. Hey, Nat, so sweet to see you on here. One thing you're grateful for in the last 24 hours, and it can be a big grand gesture, and or it can be something as small as being outside or a note that somebody sent you. And I wanted to start this way. Hey, Diane. For a couple of reasons, it sets the tone for this whole talk on how are you emotionally taking care of yourself. And as we discussed in the last 2 weeks, gratitude is a huge piece of that. So for me, every time I get together in a meeting, 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter how many people, just ask what you're grateful for. And the trick with gratitude is it doesn't come from here. It's something that you feel from your head. Dan's grateful for our CPY family. Awesome. So am I. Go ahead and put it in the chat function when it hits your heart, and I'll read it out loud. I'm grateful for nice sunny days. Yeah, Janine. Me too. Samson, what are you grateful for today? And if you're just hopping on, it looks like there's 14 of us. Go ahead and type it in. Grateful for community, the amazing friends, virtual ways to connect, people outside of my household. Yeah, right on that. Good. So it's the top of the hour for your breath. Katya home studying hard, generally being an amazing human. Will you tell that sweet daughter of yours I say hello? Healthy food, right. Samson has been on a tear, just being a magician in the kitchen as I understand it lately. Samson, if you want to post some of your favorite recipes towards the end of this, that would be awesome. You may have heard that. That's how it's going to go when we're outside. There'll be some extra noises. Inside it's kids, outside it's cars. All right. One or two more gratitude posts, and then we'll dive into this week's content. And this week's content is a doozy. It's actually a practice that I've been using for close to 13 years now. And it's in two forms. So we'll see how deep into the second section we get. And if not, then we have next week. What I wanted to talk about is our brain and how it works. So as a quick review, your emotions are driven, for the most part, by the thoughts that you either have intentionally or unintentionally. And then from that space, there's a program or a story that runs, and chemicals pour into our body, and we feel happy, sad, stressed, whatever. So with that as a background, I wanted to share some more information on how our brains actually work. So our brains are, think of them as machines that process information, massive amounts of information, all throughout the day, nonstop. And we have a conscious mind, which is us when we're awake. And then we also have this subconscious mind. And that's the stuff that's happening underneath the hood. And the subconscious mind runs roughly 90% of the machine. So another way to put it or to think about it is that 90% of the thoughts you have every single day are the same. 90% of your actions, your habits, the way you navigate through your life are the same. And just do a little bit of inquiry and think about this for a second. Think about how you wake up every day. What's the first thing you do? What's the second thing you do? Where do you navigate? Even in the scope of your regular work life, are there rituals and or habits that are happening on autopilot? And for the most part, your answer is going to be yes. That 10% is the variability that we're conscious of. And this happens in our brain. It's more of a filter to protect us from going crazy. It's your reticular activating system that's coming online and allowing you and your conscious mind to focus on only the most important aspects of what you need in that moment and or that day. And the rest of it can be put on the back burner. So when it comes to emotional state practices, I want you to do a little bit of inquiry here, and I'm going to give you a minute or so to think about how you generally feel throughout the day. Think morning, noon, and evening. Think about when you go to work. Think about when you're taking yoga. Just if you can, do some auditing of how you show up every day without thinking about it. If you're taking notes, just write notes without judgment. Normally, I'm happy in the afternoons. Normally, I wake up tired or groggy or sad. Whatever it is, without judgment, just inquire. So we'll go another 30 seconds. Okay. Now that you have a little bit of an idea of what's going on, and if you haven't been able to find it or it really is different every day, it's not right or wrong, good or bad. And that's another thing that I want to be super clear about when it comes to our operating system is that your brain doesn't really decipher between right, wrong, good, or bad. It just goes into the direction that it's pointed. It's a very efficient machine. And the best analogy that I can use for this is with food or with exercise. If we put good stuff in, we typically feel good. If we drink soda all day or alcohol and sugar, then we typically don't feel well. So good stuff in, good stuff out. The same is true with our brain without right, wrong, good, or bad. So we could be habitually having in that 90% of our subconscious mind thoughts that are not supportive to us. Things like I am not good enough, or I am too this, or I'm too that, and or why am I this way? And they could be happening consciously and or subconsciously. And whatever the answer is, your brain is going to look for the things that you're putting in. Last week, I shared a quote from my good friend Roger Sipe. He said, what you see is what you look for. Subconsciously, your brain does the same thing. So the real question becomes, and our practice becomes here, what will you choose to program that 90% of your brain that is operating subconsciously with? Well, I guess the question before that is, can we change that? And it's a resounding yes. It's 100% yes. And it will take some work. So the work of reprogramming your subconscious mind is going to happen in two ways. Number one, it's an internal dialogue. And then number two, it's an external action-based thing that you will be able to partake in. So I like to start with the internal dialogue first. And Samson typed this out. There's a book, and it's really old. And most of it, I would say 90% of it still lives up and still serves for this purpose. The name of the book is called What to Say when you are talking to yourself. What to say when you are talking to yourself. I don't remember the author now, but if you Google it, you'll find it. And this book is all about the power of self-affirmations. And a lot of us have heard of affirmations before, but there's some actual to do, there's some steps and some science behind affirmations that will help them take hold. So, really, what you're doing when you use an affirmation is rewiring your subconscious brain to look for the things that you're saying or affirming about yourself. And the cool thing about affirmations is that they can be anything. Like you can have fun with them. I'm smart. I'm organized. I'm fit. I'm athletic. I'm charismatic. Uh, I'm attractive. I'm funny. I'm grounded. I'm settled. I'm present. I'm a good listener. I'm a good partner. The list can really start to build. So before we get into how to use those, I want to pause us here, get pen to paper, and best practice for me is going to be to make a list of 5, but no more than 10. And I'll tell you why in a second. So make a list of 5 to 10 affirmations. And before you dive in, think about what it is that you want to draw more of into your life. How do you want to show up more? What part of your subconscious mind do you want to rewire so that what you see is what you look for, so that you're looking for those things inside of you? And then I'll tell you how that translates from internal to external. So we'll take about a minute and 2 minutes. You'll tell me. As soon as you have either 5 or 10, please type them into the chat function. We'll read a couple of examples of how they are. I just rattled off a few, but all of us show up with our own things, our own perspectives of ourselves. So as soon as you have them, type out. We'll start with your top 3. And then your homework is to get 5 to 10. But when you have your top 3, go ahead and type them out. The structure is I am. So it's in the present and it has ownership. I am strong. I am energized. I'm confident. Perfect, Simpson. It could be a role that you play in your life as well. I am a creative being. Yes, Janine. So when I say role, like I am a good father. I am an extraordinary father. I'm a patient father. Mary, I am strong. I am positive. I am joyful. Diane, I am stable, abundant, grounded. And then some coaching there. When you're writing it down, write the word I am in front of each one. I didn't ask you that, but when you're doing it in your own journal. So we'll take another 30 seconds. Nat, what'd you come up with? I'd love to hear since you're on here. Oh, look at that. I am a grounded source of support. Perfect. So get 5 or 10. Mars to Earth. I am beautiful. I am whole. I am alive. Yeah. I am confident. I am able. I am likable. So sweet, Holly. Okay. So here's the practice. Now that we have some traction on what these actually are, minimum of 5, no more than 10. The practical application looks like this. You will repeat these 3 times a day. For me, it's in the morning. I shared with you last week that I wake up, I do my things, and then I have my meditation. The way that I kick off my meditation is to repeat my affirmations. You can repeat them to yourself in your brain, your eyes closed. I am confident. I'm smart. I'm organized. I'm likable. Or you can get in front of your mirror, look yourself in the eye, and say, I am smart. I am capable. I am likable. And embody it. And notice how when I just started to look at myself in the phone, there's some more body language that happened, and that wasn't on purpose. It's a result of saying and seeing and believing. Yeah, Nat, it is. So quietly with your eyes closed and or the mirror, sometime within the first 30 minutes of waking up. It's really important that you do it first thing in the morning. We're moving from a sleeping state to a conscious state. So there are 4 types of, let's call it, stages of being awake. You're awake, you're asleep, you're dreaming, and then you're in that in between where you're kind of awake but kind of asleep, and you don't know, you're not sure what time it is or what day it is, and you just know that you're there. Right before you fall asleep and right before you wake up is when that state happens. And what I've learned is that you are most susceptible to suggestion while you're in that fourth state of consciousness, which is why practices like meditation and mantra and prayer are so powerful, because they move you from an awake state to that awesome in between. And whatever it is that you want to tell yourself starts to plant and grow seeds versus it just moving away. Like, think about when you're 100% awake and you start to say things, they just don't take hold as much. So we might as well use the natural cycle of how our brains work and how our chemistry works to to root these things in. Other side note, don't look at your phone when you wake up. If you use your alarm on your phone, fine, just hit the thing, but don't go into the news, don't go into your messages, your emails, social media, because you're in that susceptible state. If you're bombarded with, call it, low vibrating news, it'll feel different and it'll stay with you longer. Rather, wake up, brush your teeth, do whatever you need to do, and then hit your affirmations. And if we're talking about brushing our teeth, that would be a great place to do it. Wake up, go to the restroom, brush your teeth, put your toothbrush down, look yourself in the mirror. I'm charismatic. I'm organized. I'm smart. I'm athletic. I'm X, Y, and Z. I'm a great dad. I'm a great husband. I'm a great wife. I'm a great mother. And just have yourself a party. 5, no more than 10. And the reason it's no more than 10 is because then the list starts to lose its potency and it gets diluted. And when you repeat it 3 times, go beat 3 by 3 is an easy way to remember it. So if you have a list of 5, say it with conviction 3 times. So 1 through 5, 1 through 5, 1 through 5. That's in the morning. Second time to do this would be somewhere in the midday. So for me, I have a twice a day meditation practice, so I like to stick the second one right there. And it doesn't matter when, but just think sometime in the middle of the day. Another one of my buddies does it in his midday when he goes to the restroom. You know, we go to the restroom all day long, so he's just kind of trained himself to pause and say his affirmations after washing his hands during his midday restroom break. Same thing there, 5 times. Oh, out loud. I don't know if I said that, but out loud, if you can, if you're at work or whatever, you can always close your eyes and say it here. But 5 or 3 times your list. And if you have a list of 10, again, it's just 3 times. So that'll take a little bit longer, but it's only a few minutes. And then the last time is right before you go to bed. So if you have a spiritual practice and you've and or you read or whatever your nighttime ritual is, do that. And as your eyes are closed, this is again really important because you want to tap into that fourth state of consciousness. As your eyes are beginning to close and you're going in and out, say it again 3 times. Your list times 3. And then write this as the second instruction down. Keep that list, whatever it is, for a minimum of 21 days. We all know that doing something or saying something for 21 days is the root of creating habit. So commit to it for 21 days. And then I can already see some of you like having affirmation paralysis. Like, oh, I don't know what to write. I want these 15, or like, it doesn't matter. Just pick whatever comes up for you now as your 10 and stick to them for 21 days because you get to do this for your entire life. And there have been times when I've done it for a year straight and times when I haven't done it for 6 months. And if I'm being honest, probably a year. But I know that I have this practice in my back pocket to tap into when I'm not enjoying the way that I'm showing up, when I'm noticing that 90% is running me in a way that I don't like. So it's like, pause, time out, let's reboot the system. and affirmations are an easy practice that everyone can do. Other side benefit is when you start the day this way, you automatically tap into that high state that we talked about last week. You automatically tap into that space of gratitude and what's good and what's great about you. I've shared this a lot in the last couple of years of in leadership meetings, but it's it's a callback to remembering not only what you want to cultivate more of, but what you're naturally great at to begin with. So many of us get real stuck on fixing our weaknesses or looking at what's wrong, and then that like brings us energetically down. And that's super valid. Like you absolutely should continue to grow and develop. But sometimes it's at the cost of sharpening our strengths. And so when we dive into this affirmation practice, it's kind of the best of both worlds. Because if you're feeling like you're unorganized, and you have been organized in your past, all of us have been, you get to not only honor what you're working on, but at the same time pump up your strength. You get to deepen and expand the parts of you that are so good, that are so great, that quite honestly have got you where you are in your life. I'm going to say that again for dramatic effect. It's not your weaknesses that got you the job, the position, the relationship. It's where you shine the brightest. So this is an opportunity to highlight all of the areas that you want to work on and where you shine the brightest in your life. So to review this first practice, positive self-affirmations, I am, look in the mirror, say it out loud, a list of 5 to 10, repeat it 3 times a day. Second thing, so that was all the internal work. Let me check the clock. We've got 11 minutes. That was the internal work. And if you have a question right now, go ahead and throw it up. And very visual. So I'll type my list up 10 and tape it to my bathroom mirror. Yes. Good. And then maybe we'll get an extra toothbrushing in per day since we're all at home. If you have a question, please type it in. So that was the internal work of shifting your subconscious mind. The external work is to actually look at those habits and or rituals that happen daily without a lot of driving from our conscious mind. Thanks, Nat. What's working? Yep, it's to flip the script. So pen to paper, another time of honesty, and you don't have to share this, but knowing that we are driven by our subconscious mind, what habit do you have that has shown up consistently for you that is not in service of you in the moment? So I shared, it doesn't matter. I have physical goals, and I also love to eat sweets, Oreos in particular. My habit, my default, is to run to the cabinet, the pantry where the Oreos live, after the kids are down 8, 9 o'clock. And I know in my brain that that is not supportive to my goal. And then at the same time, I'm being driven energetically by this habit because I've been doing it for years. As soon as it's like, call it 8:45, 9 o'clock, I start to get this sugar craving. So I write that down. What's the habit? If you want to share, cool. If not, there's absolutely no need to on this one. And it can be with another example would be with a relationship, right? Relationships are a big deal for all of us, and not only romantic relationships, but our friends, our family, the way that we're connecting. Think about who you're being or how you're being when somebody criticizes you or judges you or gives you unsolicited advice or feedback. Think about your habitual default. Do you get defensive? Or do you lead with this beautifully open heart? Let's take 30 seconds or so, 30 seconds or more to just think about how you show up. What are some habits that appear for you that are not in support of who you'd like to be and or in support of your goals? And if there is a brave soul that wants to share, feel free, because then we can use that as the live coaching. Okay. Excessive anger, TV before bed. That's a good one. Robin, let's use that one. So I'm imagining, since this is a one-way conversation, that right before you get in bed or whatever, you turn on the TV and there's that mindless scrolling. So for me, it's a lot of Neil, I'm with you. Oreos, M&Ms. It's a lot of social media scrolling, and it's the key there is mindless. So that's the habit that we have formed. If we're going to use this 10% capacity that we have to transform that habit, what would be a good thing to put in place of it? What would be a good action? And the key here is that it has to be an action that you control, that you can physically do. Because if you do the thing, good Robin, for 21 days, now you've begun to unearth and shift. And this is where it's so magical and it's super fun to play this game with yourself. So back to Robin's example, it's a mindless TV or for me, mindless social media. So now we get pen to paper and set the intention. I will read for the next 21 days before I go to bed. And then that's it. Now you come back to your affirmations. So in the morning, you wake up, I'm organized, I'm a great listener, I'm a great father. You do your things. The last one, so number 6 or number 11 is I will read before I go to bed. And then you do it again at lunch. And then the end one kind of is like a backside because theoretically you've already read and you're falling asleep. So layer it into your list of affirmations and then consciously do it. Essentially, you're telling yourself once when you write it down, the thought, the intention is born, and then twice per day leading up to it. In this case, because it's happening at night, you're giving yourself a reminder to read before you go to bed. And two things are going to happen. You're going to get into bed and you'll turn on the TV and you'll totally forget because it's a habit. And fine, let yourself off the hook. Or you'll turn on the TV and you'll be like, oh, I'm supposed to read. Again, no stress. This is where that 10% gets to implant into your subconscious mind. You say, I made a decision to read before I went to bed. Click, open up your book, have at it, and then shut her down. So it's not about the result in the moment. I'm being super clear with this. It's about bringing an awareness to what you want to do and then catching yourself while the bad habit is happening. And bad is not the right word. It's just a habit that's not in support of who you're trying to become. And taking action on what you decided would be the best course of action. I'm going to give you a minute here to write down what that action is. Robin gave us a great example. It's to read, it's to meditate. Choose one thing that is the opposite of the habit that you're trying to ditch and in service of who you're trying to become. So for me, if it's getting up and going to the pantry, eating that this extra sleeve of Oreos is not in service. And if I make the decision, I'm going to drink a hot tea instead because that grounds me, that fills me. It's a spiritual practice for me. I'm going off tangent a little bit to drink tea, but it also kills that sugar craving that I have. So I can get up, open the sleeve, and as soon as I catch myself, like, oh, I got it. Cool. Let's go make the tea instead. Boil the water, pick the tea. And you will be amazed at what you get to turn around for yourself in such a short period of time. And you can do this for more than just one thing. I don't, yeah, we have 3 minutes. This is why I said there's going to be a part 1 and 2, because this is a big one. So start thinking about just the first one you're going to do for today. Choose one habit that you are very, very aware of that is not in support of who you want to become. Type in the chat function what the opposite new habit that you're committing to will be for at least 21 days. And then I'll review our time together. Number one, get clear about how you're talking to yourself. Affirmations, a list of 5 or 10, 3 times a day out loud to the mirror, or just say them. Second part of today's homework was to identify a habit that isn't in support of who you want to become, and then identify and write down a new action that is the opposite of the action that is keeping you from who you're going to become. Layer that into your affirmations. So you're giving yourself a constant reminder 3 times a day, and that will lead you to do more of what you're looking to do. And the affirmations is you taking that 90% and rewiring it. And I'll use the last minute to share how powerful this is, because it does take time. Like, you can get to a place where your 90% subconscious is 100% what you want it to be. And I have seen people do this. I have friends who've been in this practice. I've played with it myself, again, for close to 11 or 12 years now. And just to use myself as an example, anytime something bad, my default instant reaction from my subconscious to my conscious is to ask myself 3 questions. Why am I okay with this? Why is this good? Why is this the best thing that can ever happen? Immediately, without thinking, I start to look for all of the reasons why this is amazing. And if you took my class last week, I started to talk about this. Like, some people are thriving during this pandemic, and some people are suffering. And I believe so much of it has to do with how we're operating from the inside out. So you have the power to control how you view and react to all of this. And I'm not going to BS you. It takes work. It takes work. Start with your affirmations. Start with one habit, and then next week we'll get part 2. Come ready to share all of this stuff. What's working, what's not. We'll make it more of a dialogue. And then I teach the yoga tonight in a couple of hours, 5 o'clock C2. It's going to be our last class on YouTube. We are moving to a different platform that's way more interactive, where I can see you, give you coaching and assist, and it'll just be more intimate, and really, really excited for that. So last C2 YouTube tonight at 5. The link is in my bio on social at Anthony Chavez Yoga. Love you all. Stay in touch, and you got it. I will see you when I see you. Namaste. Thanks, Nat. So rad to see you. Thanks, Mary. Robin. Diane, thank you.